With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Nine weeks of battling lead to one night to determine a champion. Two drivers with a chance to come away as the title reward winner. The question is, which one will it be tonight for the PRL's F3 Series? We're about to find out here tonight on RaceSpot. Justin Prince, Derek Watson with you. Alongside us in the production booth tonight is Raphael Senk as we get all set to go to see how things play out at Rudskogen Motor Center. We're in Norway tonight to determine a champion for this season. 18 points the difference amongst our top two competitors, Derek. And it's all coming down to this to determine who is your champion.
It really is, JP, and it's really come down to a little bit of an unknown. I mean, this is a new track on iRacing service, only been out for 2 or 3 seasons. It's free content, but not that often used. If we could take a look at the schedule here for the season, you'll see a lot of tracks. Look at that. Mosport, Hockenheim Ring, Brands Hatch, we were just at Motegi and other places. So this is a bit of an unknown for me on this track. I think a lot of drivers told us last week they're unsure what to expect here.
Remember one previous race in series history when it comes to PRL competition. Drivers were told to take note all the way back from the 7th round of the last time they ran here at this facility, especially with how the marks play out. Two drivers looking to have top marks tonight. Julio Palacio in the better position with the drop factored in, an 18-point difference between him and Ozzy Milwane. Milwane already using the drop during round 3. Palacio's current calculated drop, 47 points for the second round of the season. In other words, Palacio needing to stay clean and make it to the finish. Otherwise, it gets very interesting for this title, Derek.
It really does. And we look down the list here, Andrew Moran, and then we got a nice battle here. Kevin McPherson, Michael Dowd, and Neil Alexander, only about 13 points apart. That'll change throughout the night. And then Eric Dubé there in 7th, Barry Cochran in 8th, and then right there, Lucas Hill and Steven Rogers, Captain America, just 2 points apart for 9th and 10th, Justin.
Indeed, Stephen Ritter is a longtime veteran, but the team championship, can say, already clinched the way of Yellow Stripe Motorsports Black, one of the top organizations for the past few seasons, but Atomic Racing in second. A big resurgence after some of their bad luck in the previous 3 seasons or so in PRL competition. Keep an eye as well, though, on some of the other battles. Yellow Stripe Motorsports Gold looking to make it a team 1-3. In that respective group, and you also have Island Autosport, Atomic Red Panda amongst those, or amongst the top 6, Parabol, Midnight, and Cobalt close together with Evolve Sim Sports and Knox eMotorsports. Your top 10, remember Knox, one of those top organizations with part-time runners throughout their campaigns. As we get ready for tonight's season finale, I'd like to remind you this race is brought to you in part by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products. It's the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Carefully priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount. Use the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And by Ninja Trader, ready to compete against the financial markets, supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe. Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with the risk-free training simulator and start tracking your performance. It's time to track how things are going in qualifying. down to about the final 5 minutes. Ilya Palacio leading the way in qualifying. He led the way in final practice to the final few moments over Michael Dowden. Dowden second, currently in session. The other championship contender, Ozzy Milwain, currently in fourth behind the former champion Andrew Moran. Then you have Stefan Verratti amongst the top 5. The difference half a second on the board as we take a look at Mr. Sneaky Takeshi Kita.
Yeah, here he is. And you guys, we've watched him all season long perform and really just sneak into those top 10 spots you talked about, JP. But the story here, pardon me, is Ozzy Milwain. Yeah, he is got to pick up the pace here. I'm watching Michael Dowden here turn the lap here. And he's currently P2. He's the closest one to get up in that pole right now.
Yeah, Michael Dowden, always very competitive. We've seen that for several campaigns. In fact, in the top 5, but had a DNF in the second race of the season and a DNS. So down 1 additional race in points, at least a 56-point difference there as a result. The old former machine still holding on to the top 5 meanwhile. Talking about this racetrack, though, second time in series history at this facility. It's a difficult track if you're not used to it, to say the very least. That's why there was so much emphasis to make sure it was studied for tonight at just a 2.02 mile distance here this evening.
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult track, partially because of the track itself, and partially because, like I said, it's not that common of a track yet. You know, it's used in the lower series in iRacing since it is free content. But I think when you get up higher in the series to your B, C, A licenses, you know, it becomes a little less common. But there's a lot of corners here to memorize, Justin. It's a tricky track, and so a lot of the drivers in our post-race interviews last week were kind of unsure what to expect here. And you can see the qualifying times are pretty close together across this field. I hope to see someone get around there.
It was very close last year, too, when these drivers came here for the first time, around the 1.1 second bracket between first and 24th in qualifying. A bit more of a sprint this year, up to more than 2 seconds currently. Amongst those looking to try and pick up the tempo by 3/10 is Milwain. And Milwain in a situation where he needs to win and then needs bad luck for Palacio, to put it politely, because it's one of the smallest, in fact, the current smallest grid of the field this season so far. 18 cars taking times. He basically needs Kevin McPherson to hit the track, who is one of 2 yet to qualify.
Well, first he needs to get this qualifying point, Justin. I mean, what you're saying is correct, don't get me wrong. But he also needs to get this qualifying point. He needs to find a way to get up on the pole, and he needs to keep trying to get about 2 minutes left here to make something happen before that additional point goes over to Palacio, who we're watching turn the track here. He just looks comfortable in that car, just kind of barely tracking out and having a good time here.
And keep in mind, if that comes to be, Palacio essentially just needs to make it to the end of the race and not finish last. For him to clinch the championship, remember, important to make it past that 50% mark when it comes to the race distance tonight. 35 laps up on the board. Takeshi Kita across this stripe with a 1:14.8. 1:13.8 is personal best. And when it comes to this racetrack, how do you try and find that extra bit of speed here tonight? Because there is only really the one long straightaway, and then it's a lot of other turns.
Yeah, I would think if you want to find speed here, you know, in qualifying, it looks like the track is slowing down, JP. I don't know if you're going to find speed at this point. You'll see some drivers are going to try to pull off here and get one last run in. You see Richard Swindell here coming out here. But I think if you want to find speed, you'd have to almost be behind someone. You talked about that long straight, Justin. To give our viewers an idea, it's 2,100 feet. It's 7 American football fields long. It's a long way. So even if you get a draft in these cars, you could find a way around it. We're going to watch Palacio again here out of this corner. See the DRS sign there. It's sort of the marker they're all using to make sure they're turned back in before that line happens. About 30 seconds left. So if you're not on track by now, you're probably not going to get there and get a run in.
Of course, one of the premier facilities of Norway. Originally opened back in 1990 when you think back to its history. The interesting part is it was eventually redesigned by Herman Tilke, the famous track designer of many of different circuits across the globe, to say the very least, including the A1 Ring, as it was called at the time, now known as the track based in Spielberg, and the Red Bull Ring in the 90s. You have Shanghai International Circuit, Fuji Speedway's most recent configurations. You have the Dublin Street Circuit in the 2010s, for example, is one of those that was not too much known. and most recently the Las Vegas Street Circuit that is set to make its debut later this year. Still, go ahead.
Real quick, just to give you the viewers an idea. The original layout for this track, F3 cars, we were looking up earlier, and the F3 record on the old layout, Justin, was 53 seconds. So imagine how different that layout is, that they're putting an extra 20 seconds on the clock with this layout.
A massive difference because the original layout was only about a mile. We're talking about a short track for a road course in the original configuration.
Yeah, it's about double that now. I think I wrote down it's 2.022 miles is the length of this track now.
Indeed, lots of action taking place across the track to close out the session. Ozzie Milwayne amongst those looking to close out the qualifying. See if Milwayne takes the lap. A little bit tight on some of these curbs, though. See if he ends up having to peel into the pit lane or tries to finish out the lap. Milwayne, last time by, 1/1000th of a second off his personal best. Looking like he's going to try and attempt it. The pit lane was on the left side by the stripe. No major change. In fact, no change at all.
That time, if it counted, would have put him up to P2 according to our timing on screen there, JP.
So it does not count in the end for Milwayne as that finishes out our qualifying session, Derek. Our championship contenders first and fourth, but even more critically, Pasio 1 point for scoring the pole tonight, which basically means, depending on how many drivers take the green flag and make it to the halfway point, Placio just needs to make it to halfway to win this championship.
Yep, that looks to be the case here. So we'll see the grid in just a second, and there's other battles we can focus on. There's 3 different tight battles, but I'll let you go through the grid here, JP.
Placio up on the pole tonight in the 1:13.1s this evening, setting the pole time by a 10th over Michael Dowden. Andrew Moran, the former champion, in 3rd spot tonight, with Ozzie Milwayne back in the 4th position. Tim Ferrari is starting 5th with Blake Seedy looking to charge forward for the 6th position. Austin Harris back in 7th tonight with Takeshi Kita in 8th. Eric Dubé in the midfield in 9th with Brad Miller up to 10th. Richard Swindells and Corey Precker round out the first dozen. It's always had in 13th position, Brett Thurman 14th. The veteran James Carter in 15th with Evan Jones and Neil Alexander, along with Drew DeWeese in the top 18. And 2 drivers did not set qualifying times tonight. Kevin McPherson and, more importantly, Oliver Hartley not electing to take part in tonight's action after originally registering during the practice session. So just a few more moments. Keys to victory tonight, Derek, as we get ready to go.
The keys to victory tonight, surviving the first couple of laps, all these tight corners, and not making a mistake here. And I think you'll be good to go. Lights are just about to be out here, Justin.
Just waiting for 3 final drivers to take the grid for our final starting grid. 2023 Season 1 competition for the PRL's Formula 3 Series here from Norway. Clock ticking down, less than 30 seconds for the drivers to make their final adjustments. Cars 0, 4, and 13, all we wait for before we get the green lights to roar. Engines are already starting to roar. Austin Harris missing the grid. Green flag waits. Green lights are out. We're underway for the season finale from Norway. Placio with a good launch down under attack by Moran. Milwayne already looking to the outside for 3rd. Getting the switchback near contact for 3rd as everybody goes 2 by 2 to the first complex. And a great start for the race pole center. Placio already up by a car length and a half. Down and losing some ground. So does Moran, dropping back to the 4th spot. Harris already out of the pit lane. Everybody else keeping it clean.
Look at that. Ozzie Milwayne's already picked himself up a spot, JP. He's determined, even if he can't win this title, he might want to win this race. And already got 1 spot up on the grid.
Keep in mind, if there is a situation where we have these 19 now drivers who have taken the green flag and taken the racetrack tonight, who all make it past that certain threshold for the points, it's important to mention, with that pole, right now, even if Placio does not make it past halfway, there's the chance of a tiebreaker. Milwayne, in that case, would not get the tiebreaker. It'd go to Placio on wins. So important for Milwayne to be up at the front from the onset.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, because what would happen if Ozzie Milwayne did win? I believe they have 3 apiece for the season, Justin. I don't know if we mud wrestle for it or how they determine it, but we'd have to go to our next tiebreaker after that. But right now, let's see what happens in this race.
The next tiebreaker for reference, second place, and then third on back in terms of the running grid. Speaking of those in the running grid, Brad Miller already up several spots. Takeshi Kita dropped back to 8th, up to 7th now is Miller.
And if you watch this track, JP, what sticks out to me is there's no moment to breathe here. Look at these guys through the corners, constantly trying to find an apex. And the moment you start to breathe, look at there's another corner. This is a very fast track. Remember, 1 minute, 13-second lap times. That you look forward to that one straightaway here, because it's the only time you really have to kind of gather yourself and feel like you have just a moment to kind of process some thoughts here, I think.
Keep in mind, too, you see the elevation change as part of this, but also because, well, it's Norway. You're driving through cliff sides. You're driving around boulders here. Drivers have now come to a stop 16th on back, though. Kevin McPherson, Drew Louise having some slow-ups on the pylon. Outside of that, things looking steady up at the front as the packs start to form. Some apologies over the radio as well in regards to this group. This is what we're talking about. Placio taking the personal best time so far. Meanwhile, a little bit of the spinnies going around the rocks.
A little bit of a deep cut in that corner. I don't know how you expect to hit in that corner and make it stick, but that's what's going to happen when you do those kind of moves. Is there you go. You see Julio Palacio just at the fastest lap right at the start of that replay, by the way, 1:14. So compared to other tracks we've been racing at in the past couple weeks, JP, I think this track's going to slow down over time. Remember last week the track never lost speed at Motegi. We beat the clock by a good 2 or 3 minutes here. This race is 45 minutes or by laps, and I suspect this week with the track slowing down, we might go all 45.
Let's get in the estimate for lap totals, 35 minutes or 45 minutes, 35 laps or 45 minutes, whatever comes first tonight. Placio running off and away by more than a second, just about breaking the toe, in fact, from Dowden. Milwain, we've seen a couple times get very close to that rear wing of Dowden rather, as a result of some of that battling going on for second. Placio just taking off and away.
Yeah, this is becoming the common scene this season, JP. Julio Palacio gets out front, finds that open air, and just eats it up. Just has a lot of fun. 2 weeks ago, we saw him have a little bit of a hard time, but Julio Palacio is a points leader for reasons, because he's been comfortable and confident this whole season.
It's been very competitive over the seasons, now in position to secure a championship. Just needs to finish things out strongly as the deficit starts to get chipped down a little bit in the middle sector. Still keep an eye on how things fare off for second. Dowden still holding on to that second position, and Dowden, keep in mind, also someone who has been very competitive over the seasons. Started off as win or bust type of performances where he crashed involving the battles in the lead a couple times in his first seasons, has cleaned things up a lot since then to become very consistent at finishing. He picked up a win, in fact, this season.
Yeah, he has picked up a win this season. There's been a few different winners this season. It's always exciting to see that happen. And listen, when you get to race against the types of Julio Palacio, Ozzy Milwain, and the others, when you can win in this league, that's a big deal, JP. It's always, a win is always a big deal. But I think when you can knock off a couple beasts, it feels a little bit better.
But he's become one of those beasts, you have to say, if in terms of that argument, because he's amongst those you have to be able to beat to perform well at. Now, as things still stand, we look towards the mid-pack and how things are playing out there. See how things line up at 14th on back. Brett Thurman battling with Neil Alexander currently. Thurman, right where he started. Alexander gaining some momentum in the heart of the pack. And just say that's a line for the green card.
And Neil Alexander finds himself tonight, JP, in that battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th with Michael Dowden and Kevin McPherson. So McPherson, we saw, already had those problems. He's back there in the 17th, but the problem for those guys is Michael Dowden is currently the fastest lap of the night in P2.
Munsto's doing really well tonight, you have to argue, too, is Richard Swindell's. A couple missed races this season, sees him back in the point standings, but has been very consistent on his mark so far, usually a 40-point per race score. Same can be said in terms of his teammate Takeshi Kita. What I find intriguing, they finally found a way to sneak the sneaky onto the race car in the space of the Deloitte sponsorship the rest of the team has.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, I was going to bring him up before you did. Like, you guys, we call him Mr. Sneaky, but he's already up to P7 tonight, JP. It's hard to be sneaky when you're in the top 10 about 7 minutes in, but we'll see if maybe he can sneak his way into a top 5 or better. But good run here so far by Takeshi Kita. We're using those curbs appropriately. Listen, in an F3 car, you have to be super careful with those curbs, JP. This is not a GT3 car or something that you typically want to ride the curbs with. The wrong curb in an F3 car, and you can find yourself way out of sorts very quickly.
Seen that several times throughout the season, so let's take a look at the double box. Looking back from ZD lower corner, still main picture for Kita. And when talking about the Mr. Sneaky movement, it really sparked up in the past couple years, where he would qualify mid-pack when he was still an AM driver, mind you, Derek, and then managed to be inside the top 10 or top 5 of the overall race by the checker flag, regardless of if he was running in the RL4 or whether it was in the F3 car. He just managed to sneak his way to the pack. He's really improved his qualifying, though, over the years since then.
Yeah, he has. He's become a very good driver. Looks like right now, if you compare him to the car in front of him, I think he just needs to start to track out a little bit more in these corners and not maybe hug them so tight, and he'll find that speed he's looking for. But he's doing a great job here. I mean, P7, there's 11, 12 other guys who would be very happy with a P7 compared to where they are, I think.
Several other Atomic Racing machines in the midst of some battles. Amongst those, James Carter, the longtime veteran, trying to hold off Kevin McPherson. And we mentioned McPherson not putting up a qualifying time for tonight. McPherson also in that championship grouping, looking to hold on to the top 4 over Michael Dowd and his teammate. In fact, a part of a 3-4-5 for Yellow Stripe Motorsports Black.
Yeah, very tough night so far. We saw him in that incident earlier, a few minutes ago with kind of being dug to the inside of. So it looks like right now, I was kind of watching him turn these corners. He just looks a little, I don't know how to describe it, JP. Not loose, but just a little frantic in his steering, maybe. Just he wants to do well and the pressure's on, maybe. I can't figure it out, but it just looks a little twitchy, maybe.
And the interesting thing that's important to mention, you talked about the tire fall off really coming to play. As we take a look at how James Carter's handling things around this racetrack, some of the drivers that work with the grouping, in particular Robert Ridgway, who has a long time of working together with Atomic Racing, reporting 60% left on the tires. That's a lot for a Formula 3 car, to say the least, in 22 laps, for example.
That is a lot, and really gives you the idea that means that everyone's going to want to put tires on when we come to our pit stop in this race, and probably no one is going to try to do anything, sneaky or different. But I want to point out that shirt as well, that MS volunteer shirt. It's a cool thing to see that he works with that group. Of course, throughout iRacing, we support that group with the Peach Tree event every year, but always nice to see people giving to good causes.
Well, it's very supportive of charities when it comes to those onboard cameras throughout the years. For James Carter, as we take a look up towards the front of the grouping still, Evan Jones quietly in the 12th position so far. California Club driver in the 24 machine, still trying to hold off the pack for Parabolic Colbell. 21st in the points, keep in mind. So just trying to find a way to the top half of the field to close things out for the campaign when it comes to this machine.
Yeah, this is the kind of race when they're in points, you just want to see what you can do, what kind of confidence you can get for next season. You're 21st in points. I mean, maybe you'll gain a spot or 2 here from people who didn't show up. But right now, this is a confidence race. These are the kind of drivers I love watching because he has nothing to lose this race, JP. He might make a different strategy call that seems off the wall or crazy just because there's nothing to lose here. Those are the fun races to watch sometimes.
Keep in mind, he's quietly gained 4 positions as this night has progressed so far. One has been a very difficult track to be able to, it seems, get a pass down, let alone multiple passes.
I mean, you see that on your side of your screen there. I mean, we saw Evan Jones, the biggest mover of the night, but so far, maybe a +1 or a -1 here or there, but no big radical changes in spots. That's been a theme of this track so far. It's not known for its big passes. Now we're going to watch here and see what 13th and 14th can do here and if they can pass each other.
That's Brett Thurman trying to find a way around Zayed. They've stayed lined up that way for the past couple laps. Still back to single file for the time being, the 69 machine of Thurman amongst those. Long-time driver in this campaign, in this series rather, over the years as well. And it's been a good season for the Speedworks machines with Palacio up at the front. Yeah, Thurman, who's done really well in terms of speed as well. There's a reason this team has themselves third in the team championship standings this season.
Oh yeah, a lot of consistent racing is how you win, especially team points titles. And I want to say real quick for PRL, I love this team point system. It really entices you to stay active in a league, even if you're not maybe going to win the overall title, so you can help your team. I think a system like this is very creative and smart, and I think more leagues would be well advised to pick up on that idea.
One DNF confirmed. Austin Harris has parked it for the night. Remember, Harris qualified 7th, started from the pit lane for this evening's action. His 13 car, he did not pass a single car before parking it after 9 completed laps in the race. So 18 drivers now reaching the first 15 minutes or so turned around the track, already about nearly a third of the way through the action tonight.
And that just makes it one less spot for Ozzie Milwain. Look, he's gotten up to third, and that gap is just growing. That 2.3 second gap is growing and growing, but it's one less spot that Julio Palacio could fall down, and more likely that Julio Palacio is the presumptive winner of this points title.
Keep an eye on that until the halfway point of the action here, as we keep an eye on second, make it 6th on back. Amongst those in this grouping, you have ZD doing well. You have Kita also amongst those scrapping ahead. You also have Michael Dowden, keep in mind, still keeping close in this battle for 2nd spot. However, you see the differences in the lap times already across the stripe. Milwain losing a 10th last time. In fact, it was more than a couple tenths the previous lap before that. This is a similar trait to what we've seen before, Derek, at this racetrack to last year, or last time they were on the racetrack. Where last campaign, when they drove at the circuit, your top competitors, Andrew Waring and Sean Campbell, both were able to pull away by several seconds up at the front when they had their leading times up at the front.
Yeah, this is the track that really, I think, benefits, or is benefited by open air for the leader. And these cars, obviously, when you're trying to follow someone around, it can be a little bit more difficult. So, I think part of it's confidence. If you're up front, you have the confidence to know what you're doing. This is a very difficult track. It's quick. It's a shorter road course, all things considered, but it's still very difficult. The elevation change alone, I think, would drive me crazy, just because you're not sure what you can see, how many corners you can see around, how many straightaways you can see over top of, make sure nothing's happening. This is a very difficult place. Please don't let the size and speed fool you. Oh, seems a little bit way wide there.
Seems like pit stops are underway, in fact. Andrew Moran amongst those coming in, as well as Takeshi Kita. The window is open, and it's very early here tonight. It's worth noting for drivers. Normally we see them go long. Instead, Moran and Kita going short.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you want to see if you can get some new tires in, maybe turn down some lap times and see if you can close some gaps. I'm a little surprised how early this is, though. We'll wait and see what happens here. We see 2 cars down.
That seems like a significant difference on strategy calls here. Moran taking a long time in the pit lane. Already 14 seconds. Something going on with Moran for him to sit there. He's got a black flag from the entry.
I was wondering if that was a speeding call, because, yeah, it's been sitting there way too long.
Andrew
Moran.
Strategy.
I'm sorry.
Andrew Moran, indeed, picking up the penalty because he burst on the gas 42 miles an hour in a 31 mile an hour zone. That'll get you caught for speeding any time. That is a 50 total second pit stop delta. Make it 40 second stop and hold, rather. And that puts Moran dead last, back to 18th and down a lap.
Yeah, that's pretty, that's a hard hit. I mean, if there's any solace for Moran, he's locked into P3 in the points tonight. nothing could happen that could put him in second or put him in fourth. So he's just here having fun tonight, but that's always frustrating. And now what happens as a driver, JP, we've both been there. It's hard now to get out of your head. It's hard not to be mad. Maybe you kind of beat yourself up a little bit, or you slap your steering wheel. In these first couple laps, you're more prone to mistakes because of how frustrated you are.
Keep in mind, it is a little bit of a difficult pit entry because not so much in where the line itself is, but just where the cone itself is. So you can kind of understand what he may have been thinking, going, am I too early on the limiter?
Yeah, and you know what? Through all the broadcasts we've done together, JP, in the past time, pit stop entry is something, no matter if it's road, oval, whatever, that doesn't get practiced enough, and there's so much time to be gained or lost on pit road. And I think this was a prime example of that in this moment.
Still keep an eye on some of the battles. Meanwhile, Brad Miller now up into the battle for 6th position. Miller also amongst those improving. He was a contender when last time the series ran an AM championship. Michael Overbay has been his longtime spotter over the past few seasons. Overbay, a former strong competitor in this competition as well. Miller really trying to attack those curbs to try and find a way to close up to Dubé.
Yeah, he's trying to find a way to see what he can do here and trying to use that draft and follow behind here. Ooh, look like really close there through that corner. Maybe just a different amount of braking, but
a lot of different curbing motions though. Miller a little bit closer to the bottom of the curb, still not able to find a full run though to get around Dubé with the arrow wash in the wake of the yellow and black machine. Of note this time by McPherson, Deweese both coming to the pit lane, so the window continues. Do we see a call from this grouping?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way he's running, trying to run down Dubé here, I suspect he'll want to stay in it. If you're going to run this hard, you don't run this hard to then pit a lap later. That's kind of backward strategy in my mind. If you're going to run this hard, you're running this hard.
Right about 20 minutes or so burned off the clock total. 16 laps complete this time by. Laps now at the left corner of your screen. Currently, these drivers about 15 seconds behind your race leader, Placio. Dowden, Milwain, Ferrari, Ziti, your current top 5. Of note, Michael Dowden has taken a point away from Placio for the time being with the fastest lap. Placio, though, has the upper hand on the interval, nearly 2 seconds up over the rest of the field.
Now, the great way to judge this track, JP, and what's happened to it would be to watch these drivers who have pitted already, or when these other drivers do pit, and see if anyone can pull that old classic F1 style fastest lap, because that'll be the determining factor in if this track really has slowed down. If new tires can't put down a fastest lap right now, then we know that the track really has slowed down over time.
But there's the interesting note I've noticed here. The personal best lap for Placio, a 1:13.6. The fastest for Dowden, a 1:13.5. The differences compared to their personal best. Placio's consistently just 1/10 off his personal best in the past few laps, Derek. Dowden is up to 5/10 off his personal best on laps. 3/10 off last time by.
That's usually a difference, JP, in a couple factors, but the biggest one being comfort and steering wheel input. We talk about this all the time about tire saving, which I'm trying to say very poorly there. How well you can save tires, and a lot of that is by putting as little input in as possible, by not causing
Ozzy Milwain has crashed. Ozzy Milwain, second in the point standings, has crashed from third, and it's going backwards on the racetrack, trying to find a way to get some space.
Oh, be careful.
Milwain able to rejoin without having too much trouble outside of having to go backwards, but he looped it on his own from the third spot. Milwain back to 11th, on track with the issue.
That's so heartbreaking to see, Justin. That's just someone maybe pushing. We'll have to wait and see if we can find the replay of the spin here, but probably just pushing too hard, trying to maintain a pace. Also, as these tires are wearing out, that becomes easier and easier to do here. But yeah, that's just hard to see. Here's your replay.
Right there.
And the slide is a move. Look at that long slide there.
And that lawn sweeper all the way through turn 3 and 4. Catches drivers off guard, and then you have Milwain having to back all the way up to be able to then get turned around properly.
And you know, the hard part about that, Justin, is when Ozzy's going to look back at that later, he's going to wonder what happened, because that didn't look any different than what we've seen other drivers take that line tonight. And that's when you get frustrated. It's like, man, I just don't think I did anything different. And it's going to be the difference of maybe your gas pedal input or how hard you hit the brake. Small difference, but it's going to seem so frustrating. So you don't think you did anything different, you know, than the first, 16, 17 laps around the track.
Big news too, Ozzy Milwain after that spin has parked it. Ozzy Milwain is out of the race just as we were halfway on the lap total. Just completing lap 18 this time. We'll see if he gets points counting for this season finale. But that means one thing, with that spin, clinch the championship to car 194. Julio Placio now just needs to finish this lap, and he is your champion.
Yeah, once Palacio figures it out, whether it be through someone telling him or just through the voice chat, or maybe he doesn't know, but it'll be comforting here. Now, the problem that he's going to face now, right there, is lap traffic. They're going to start to give way for the leader, and that's good to see. It's so heartbreaking for Ozzy Milwain. He's fought so hard these past few weeks, but obviously just frustrated, and it's going to park it for the night.
That leaves us with 17 cars running. Placio still up by about nearly 2 seconds, lost some time at the traffic. But impressive to say the least with Placio. He was a contender for the championship a couple seasons ago with his consistency. This time, season leader in victories. Dowden, though, still holding on to second. With that spin, though, a massive difference between second and third. Now 6 seconds on the track to the Rust Racing car, the 04 of Varani.
And now we're going to see James Carter and Takeshi Kita back here for 10th and 11th. James Carter's going to work his way up from what we saw earlier. Takeshi Kita's down a couple spots. Remember, we still have some pit stops to happen here. So some of these gaps you're seeing on your ticker, remember, some of these are because a few drivers have pitted already and a few haven't. You'll see this Atomic racing car come around the track here.
Kita is the first of those who have pit so far. 44.7 seconds behind the leader, Placio. Remember, the pit delta tonight for a scheduled service is about 35 to 37 seconds.
Yeah, so that means it'll come out just behind him. It'll be close, quote unquote, but not enough unless Takeshi Kita can find a way to close that gap some more by using those tires. Here's what I'm starting to wonder, though. I know I said earlier that I thought the obvious call was to take tires, Justin, but if you're Julio Palacio, I mean, mind you, that gap should be closing any moment now towards the end of this pit run, but do you take tires here? Do you play with the strategy? If you're Julio Palacio, you just play it safe now. You take 4 tires, I think. There's nothing to fight for here. You just go out and race, I think, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, because the normal trend we've seen over the years at F3 competition, remember, top off, just take the fuel, get to the end. But with the tire wear significance, that's been the intriguing part of tonight. In terms of some of the difference marks, some drivers now starting to see falls up to 6 to 8 tenths of a second. Some of the worst falls of the season.
Yeah, by far. Sorry, I agree with that. I was kind of processing that thought for a second, but by far, maybe the worst drop-off I've seen of the 3 races I've done this season. I mean, and it's obvious because once again, Takeshi Kita and the others, who come down, Andrew Moran, have not flirted with that fastest lap yet. So you have your point. I'm sorry about what cut you off there.
I was about to say, though, Derek, the reason you see the speeds normally go down with the fuel load is it's a lighter race car, but it takes the most elite to be able to run a fast car on worn tires in a light race car and have that combo work. Oh,
for sure. Absolutely. And in team racing, that's something we focus on a lot, is making sure that you can drive the car in a light fuel load, because it's such a different beast than your starting laps, whether it be at any racetrack. It doesn't matter. Daytona, Sebring, the Nürburgring, it doesn't matter. Any kind of endurance racing, that's such a different feeling on that light fuel load. You can spin a car pretty easily because it just takes less brakes. You have less tires. It's a crazy feeling.
We are just about towards the ding of a time to pit down, or rather, that pit window becoming an urgent time, is what I'm trying to say. Drivers right now around 16 minutes to go on the clock. Lap 22, looking to complete lap 23 this time. This is usually around the time drivers start to consider the pit stops for the long-running strategy to close things out for the campaign here. Palacio still up by 2.4 seconds. The execution needing to be perfect here, just to close things out for the campaign.
I remember the first pit stops we saw were on lap 11, JP, so my commentary math tells me that 35 minus 11 is 24 laps. So within the next couple of laps here, everyone should probably be on the max of that window, unless those guys pitted too early the first time around.
Hearing a lot of communication amongst the drivers in terms of lap traffic. Outside of that, things have been fairly spread apart for the time being for the positions. Dubé and Miller staying close as we've checked on. Precker and Swindell is fairly close within 1.2 seconds. Everyone else looking to try and think big picture on the strategies. We take still a look at one of those battles still. Brad Moore's been trying. He's been trying. Might have burned some stuff up there for him to drop back now, like he has for the past couple laps.
Wow, look at that gap increase, though, between Palacio and Michael Dowden. Palacio's pulling a bigger gap. It was like 1.6, 1.7 seconds. Now we're up to 2.5. We're watching a different battle here. We're just watching the ticker as well. Yeah, these gaps are becoming big, JP. It's becoming harder and harder to find cars close together on the track.
Some of the ups and flows. So when it comes to this racetrack, it seems with how big that aero push effect has been here at Rudskogen. Curious if anyone ducks down from this grouping. We've started lap 24, looking like driver's going to go one more before we reach around the 13 to 12 minute to go mark when it comes to that fuel mark to close out the campaign. Pit stops expected next time, if not this time, by, in fact, Swindell's is the first to blink on the lawn pit strat.
Brad Miller here, the Ohio native, currently running P6 here. I'll try to run down Eric Dubé here, but yeah, the pit stops are happening, so now we'll watch the difference in those pit box times here. They'll take less fuel, obviously. It'll be crazy to see if anyone does something weird here. I think everyone will put tires on. I'll have to take a look at it, JP.
Remember, if they go up on the jacks, it's about an 8-10 second pit stop time. Richard Swindell's fuel only. By the way, 4.5 seconds is the pit delta. Race leaders expecting to peel on in. Palacio, the first of those to blink for the pit stop. Michael Dowden, of note, absolutely floored it to close up the gap on the access road, though, to close it to 4 car lengths before the pit stalls.
And they all come to us here on the camera shot. Watch them get in their respective stalls for where they gridded. Of course, Julio Palacio gets to go all the way down to the end of pit road since he gridded first. Shot here for the middle of pit road.
Already off and away, Palacio. And that was a very quick stop, 4.5 seconds. Dowden, 4.7 seconds. You see how much time was picked up on the entry from Dowden. Exit, about 34 seconds per time for the access road for both the drivers. The gap closed up by about a second as a result of Dowden's effort on the entry, but it's still a massive difference.
It almost looks like whatever he gained on the entrance, he might have lost on the exit, Justin, because that gap is... it's a little different. Maybe it is better now that they're on track, but it's not massively different.
1.6 seconds already down as the rest of the drivers close out service. Corey Precker, Soy Sayad, James Carter, the last of those to come down to the pit lane to close out pit service. Of note, drivers attempting a short pit strategy, such as Takeshi Kita, up to 4th. Others trying the strategy are in the back of the field currently. Take a look at the VR look. You see the YS Motorsports machine really trying to wheel it around. This is Corey Precker.
Watch those hand movements through the corners here to see how much he's fighting that car. corner here. Must be a nice right-hander here. Pretty smooth entry there. A little bit of fight out of the corner, but that's a pretty smooth entry overall.
You can see how he's just following the movement of the curbs and trying to look where he wants to go. That's one of the first things taught in driving school is you look where you want to go. And that's why sometimes drivers, when they're new to the road, they look to the right, they end up turning right and end up hitting something by accident.
And that happens pretty commonly, actually. Yeah, you're right. That's what they teach you. Look 2-3 seconds ahead of you. That's what you should be worried about. Oh, you cut the track there, but it's doing okay. Nice onboard ride with Corey Precker there.
By the way, the reason for that smoke puff was Kevin McPherson, who has struggled today. McPherson now out of the car and out of the race. McPherson did pass the halfway threshold, though, so likely will score points. 16 left on the track for the final 10 laps or so of this race.
That should lock Michael Dowden into P4 in the points, unless something weird happens here. As we said, it was him and McPherson battling for 4th and 5th here. Now we're going to see what happened to McPherson.
See, they lost the back end. And by that point, just said, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah, we've had a tough night sometime. I mean, he's been involved in a couple incidents now. It's it's hard to be motivated when you're already back there and you're still spinning it around. So, yeah, Michael Dowden now, his only competition is Neil Alexander all the way back in P15. So, Michael Dowden looks to be a P4 finisher in the points.
Very impressive run, though, tonight for the Rust racing car. And lots of momentum being carried throughout the night when it comes to Ferrari, when it comes to this evening's run. 14.7 seconds back of the leader, yes. But able to pick off drivers one by one after they spun in front of him. Once the top 5 has stayed in the top 5. In turn, with no start tonight from Stephen Ritters or from Lucas Hill. And for Barry Cochran, for good measure. An 8th place points run.
Yeah, so I was staring at the points for a second to look at that. So Stephen Verde should move up a lot. Yeah, he might get all the way up to at least 8th. Let's see. And DeVay's in the race, yeah. So yeah, you're right.
That unofficial tracking, we'll see how things play out in the official standings after post-race review. Swindells, meanwhile, as we look at the Atomic Red Panda machine, looking to find a way to get some atomic power to get around Precker.
I'm going to go back a topic for a second. We had a chance to talk to Stephen Verde after his performance last week, and he said, he missed some races in the beginning of the season, was just out here driving, and was kind of surprised that he could still finish top 10 in the points. So it's always a good feeling when you kind of surprise yourself with a top 10 run in the points to end the season. But said he's happy about what he's doing and hoping to do better next season.
Really doing well tonight as we take a look from the front and back viewpoints. Not too much shaking when it comes to that suspension for the back end. Lots of pushing, though, you see from the front end. A lot of curves being taken.
And that's my biggest surprise in this race tonight, Justin, is how many curves are being taken by everybody. The F3 car, as I said earlier, is not a car known to be happy with taking curves. But these guys are really just all over the curves and really attacking tonight.
One driver really I've noticed has had some slowdowns to deal with just about, that's it. Soleil Sayad, amongst those, I've seen pick up a few warnings for corner cuts. Everyone else, though, has been, despite how close the margins have been on the curb, staying within the margins of halfway on the track to avoid the corner cut.
As this race winds down, JP, the closest battle I can find on track is the battle for 3rd and 4th. If we could cut to either Takeshi Kita.
Trouble.
Go ahead.
Drew DeWeese is now the first driver to reach the incident limit in the 23. One lap down, yes, on track, but we have had our first driver reach the incident mark of 13 incident points.
It's hard to see. And if I recall the league rules correctly, Justin, it means that driver will not score points tonight. That's a DNF.
It's more so a drive-through at the time being. If you reach 17, it's the
17,
DNQ.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. But the closest battle we can find here is 3rd and 4th, Stephen Verde and Takeshi Kita. These guys are going for it right now.
Kita nearly sneaking his way off the racetrack. Both of the drivers send it to the outside. Coming up to the final 6 laps for them, this time by the stripe. Expecting 5 to go next time by, to be taken by Placio. Kita looking to sneak his way into a podium spot to close out the season. But this is what Deweese had an issue with. This is why he had to drive through the second he finished up this turnaround.
Overall, a pretty great save there, Justin. How much speed he had spinning around like that. I was expecting him to hit the wall, but he kept it off there.
Still, though, Kita has been very strong in this stint, near identical times compared to Verde. The question again, how do you make the pass? That's not been an easy question to answer today.
No, it's not an easy question to answer today. And I think the only way you make the pass probably here is either 2 ways. Either one, you get super aggressive in these last couple of laps and you just kind of try to outbrake someone. Or 2, you just hope he makes a mistake and you can benefit from it. I don't think by quote-unquote normal driving that you're going to make a pass here.
By the way, that car stopping at the edge of the racetrack was Deweese trying to let them go. It will not really impact the line all too much.
And I got to be honest, JP, that's not one of my favorite racing moves. When people try to let you by, oftentimes they end up being more in the way by letting you by than if they just ran their race and let you figure out how to get around them. It's a really sketchy moment when things like that happen.
Verde, though, starting to pick up a little bit more ground throughout Sector 1. Down to the final 4 laps this upcoming time by the way. Is to make the way around the boulder. Kita, again, strong send through 4, up to 5. Kita still trying to make those little lunges right now. Very loose again off the corner, though, Derek.
That's part of being aggressive, JP, and it's so hard to see him do it. You know, that's how hard he's trying. It's just how much that car wiggles. That's what we call loose. That means he's pushing the gas pedal a little too hard or braking a little too late. Just trying to find time, and in every wiggle normally means it has the opposite effect of what you want it to.
It's worth noting the race leaders are in heavy traffic too with the 194 and the 8. They're still separated by 1.5 seconds. Lap 32, 4:30 to go in terms of time on the clock. Verde losing a little bit more ground compared to last time to Kita in the battle for the podium. Kita last time by, though, slower on the stopwatch, looking to try and close the gap again. He's been stronger in Sector 2.
Look how much different he cut that corner there than what Verde did. He's trying to be different. He's trying to find a line. Oh, there it is again. Man, look at that car just almost kick out in the back end, Justin.
You can tell he's trying to push. Do you blame him to try and end off the season, is the question.
I don't blame anyone for racing hard for a spot. I don't care. End of the race, you have a right to race for it. Race clean. Don't wreck anyone. Race hard and have fun with it. That's what we're here to do. We're here to make passes. We're here to get close to each other. We're not here to wreck each other, but we're here to have fun doing it.
Placio, by the way, in the final couple laps now, under 3 to go on the season. Michael Dowden had closed the gap to 1.3 seconds, and then lap traffic played a factor. Dowden couldn't find the clean space to get around until the final straightaway. That cost him now 2.3 to 2.3 seconds the deficit. Placio just a couple miles away from the championship as we take a look at how some of this traffic played out moments ago. And you can see how disastrous that could have been for Placio. This is after he had just passed some of the cars.
That could be very disastrous. In fact, wow.
Placio still a few minutes to go to work with.
Like, that could have been very bad if he'd not got their car stopped. He could have ended up on track in front of people. End up hitting a wall there. That's a scary moment to see in that replay there. I had not seen that live, so that was scary to see in the replay.
2 to go on the season. Placio starts lap 34. Palacio, a consistent campaign throughout. Every single race this season has been a top 5 threat, looking to secure a 4th victory. Still has to do 3 more miles of racing to do it, to secure the championship and close out the season. All races in the top 5.
And a 4th win, don't leave that out. That's a half the season almost. 40% of the season is going to be a win here, unless something weird happens.
Never say never when it comes to what can happen in sim racing. But again, it's been impressive how he's played things out. His consistency has always been amongst those in the top 8 in the series point standings. Went in the championship conversation a couple seasons ago. This season, taking the big leap to become the front runner.
I know we're watching the leader take his victory lap of sorts here a little early, but if we could cut back to 5th and 6th, Eric Dubé and Brad Miller, that's a tight battle here as this race concludes. That's going to be the race here in a moment.
White flag is out of the season. Final time around from Norway. Battles are on across the track. Miller has been fighting all race with Dubé, saying thank you over the radio to Drew DeWeese in terms of lap traffic. Miller looking for 1 or 2 more chances to try and make this move for 5th position. A little bit tight on the runoff space. Miller tries to get a little bit of draft. The further back driver has been stronger into the corner entry to 1 and 2 all day. Miller trying to run the very inside of the curbing. Still can't get a pass.
Tried really hard though. I don't know if he got a little tight or loose in that corner there, or if he just backed off to not hit Dubé. But he was there for a second, Justin. I thought he was going to close that gap, but did not happen.
Meanwhile, up at the front, Julio Palacio looks to make it through one section of corners clean. The Speedworks Racing Team Esport driver comes out of the final corner and gets to celebrate a PRL championship. Julio Palacio, with his 4th victory on the season, secures a PRL F3 title.
What an incredible run. Lap to or flag to flag, just really class of the field in multiple ways tonight, Justin.
A walk-off victory for Palacio. Michael Dowden, Verdi the top 3. The battle is on for 5th. Dubé trying to hold off Miller for 1 more corner. He does. Both drivers a little bit wide, stay on the track limits. Eric Dubé holds on to 5th at this flag stand. Corey Parker and Richard Swindells look to close it out as well. 8th position, Swindells 9th position. And what a way to end the season. Only a couple drivers out of the race. A clean run throughout the night as Evan Jones finishes off in 12th. Andrew Moran does manage a lead lap finish in 13th. But it's Julio Palacio who gets to do the victory lap. He battled hard for championships throughout the past few seasons with drivers like Moran, with Milwain, with several others. This season, he gets the job done in the end. As Palacio speeds his way off to the pit lane, let's take a look at your unofficial race results as Julio Palacio, your 2023 Season 1 champion for the Precision Racing League in its F3 Series. Michael Dowden finishes in 2nd with Verdi in the 3rd spot. Kita, Dubé, Miller, and Zeta the top 7. Then you have Precker and Swindells with Sully Siad in 10th. Brett Thurman finishes behind all of them in the 11th spot tonight. That being about 43 seconds back of your top 10 grouping this evening. Evan Jones, Andrew Moran, the last of the lead lap. James Carter, 1 lap down with Theo Alexander, 2 laps down for Drew DeWeese. Kevin McPherson, Ozzie Milwain, and Austin Harris, your DNFs. And Oliver Hartley did not take the start for tonight's action and did not qualify. That closes out the campaign here. Lots of drivers getting themselves ready to celebrate here this evening. 19 take the final green flag of the season. 1 comes out with the checker flag and the title, Derek.
What an incredible season. And it really just shows you just how important consistency is. I mean, yeah, 4 wins is a lot. But as you said, the important stat that sticks out to me, never worse than a top 5. I don't care what point system you use. I don't care if it's oval, if it's road, if it's bicycles. It doesn't matter. If you have a season where you never are below a 5th place, that's how you win a title. Great job. Great job here by Julio Palacio.
Drivers still taking their time to make their way up towards virtual victory lane here. How would you describe seeing how Palacio had battled things out throughout the final stage of the season against Ozzie Milwayne?
I mean, it's fun to watch some race, but as far as describing it, it's just no mistakes. I think that's the difference. I mean, 2 weeks ago we saw Palacio not win, but I think finished 3rd or 4th in a race 2 weeks ago. But overall, Julio Palacio puts himself out front. He understands how important clean air is to an F3 car and just performs. It's just amazing to see top to bottom, qualifying, fastest laps, race results. Consistency is the word I'll use again. I think that's the most important word I can come up with. Now we're seeing a really classy move with all these drivers following the leader here around the track and kind of doing that parade to help him celebrate his victory.
Julio Palacio now making his way over from virtual victory lane. Your 2023 Season 1 champion now joins us in the broadcast booth. Julio, you've done it. After being in contention for several seasons, you break through with the title this season. How does it feel to be a PRL champion in the F3 Series?
Oh, man, it feels awesome. It feels great. I tell you, it's a long season and a lot of pressure and just trying to maintain my consistency and, racing with some great people out there. So it was a lot of fun. I feel great.
It was a intriguing season when it comes to the point tallies. You and Milwayne coming out as the top contenders wrote this campaign. How would you describe the battling with Milwayne as well? You throw in Moran, McPherson, Dowden, who have all been within that range much of the season until tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome racing with the entire group and the entire, folks there that you mentioned. I mean, everyone raced tough. Everyone raced clean. We could trust each other. There was a lot of close racing and back and forth. And yeah, man, it's just a lot of fun kind of knowing that you can trust the people that are around you and vice versa. They can trust you. And it was just a long battle, long season. I'm actually glad it's over, but it was a lot of fun.
In your opinion, what did it take to get yourself to this point now? From that top 5 battling into the conversation for the championship a couple seasons ago to finally break through this season, what do you think was the big difference?
A couple things. After last season, I realized I was missing a little bit, so I made some changes in my braking, my technique, and I think just as importantly, I started working with JWS and Jesper, and he's been working with me all season. It's amazing what a difference that makes, so many thanks to him and his sets. And I think that and being consistent and confident and just kind of, got some good luck, and I think putting it all together is what kind of brought it, as a championship, which was awesome.
You mentioned one of the names that helped you throughout the championship this season. Who else would you like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I want to thank my team at SRT. We're going to be bringing a bunch of them into F3 next season, so it's going to be great. I want to thank you guys, obviously, for the broadcast, and PRL for an amazing league. And I want to thank my colleagues at Mainsail Partners, the coolest private equity firm in the world. They're a bunch of cheerleaders, and they work with me, and it's just fun. So yeah, super excited.
Congratulations, you are a PRL champion.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next season.
Julio Palacio coming away with the championship this season, picking up the title this season over Ozzie Milwayne. Second spot in the race tonight. Also standing by, he's with Derek. It's Michael Dowden, who gets himself a top 5 points finish this season.
Well, Michael, top 5 in the points, fastest lap of the night even, but just had a hard time catching Julio. What was it like out there tonight?
It was a pretty calm race after it settled down after the first couple laps, but ultimately with this track it comes down to qualifying, and missed out on Julio by about a tenth, and that was the difference. And that's pretty much it. Congrats to Julio. Great season. See him in the next one.
Yeah, it was a great season. Now, this is a track that I think doesn't get used as often. It was free content iRacing service, but maybe it's a newer track. How familiar were you with this track coming into the race tonight?
I was actually pretty familiar when it first came out. I ran it in week 13 for some fun, and I put a good amount of laps on it. And then it also was in the F4 schedule when I was driving the F4 car, so I also got some experience there. So honestly, it only took 15, 20 laps to get close to the pace, and then another couple hundred to try and eke out every little bit of performance. But yeah, I think this track it's pretty good, but I just don't think it's well suited for this car. It's just way too hard to follow and overtake, I think.
Yeah, it looked like passing was a challenge tonight. So tonight you bested out Kevin McPherson and Neil Alexander to lock in your points position. It's a good job there. As you head out tonight, anyone you want to say hello to or give thanks to for the end of the season?
Shout out to the team, YSM, Yellow Stripe Motorsports. Had great teammates all season. We take the team championship as well. We're looking to come back and repeat next season, and then hopefully get the drivers' championship as well.
There you go. Awesome. Well, good job. He is the driver of the number 8 car, finishing second. Michael, good job tonight.
Thank you, guys.
So Michael Dowden coming away with the second spot in this race tonight. Then you have Verde coming away with the third position tonight, one of the stronger runs of the season for the 04 machine. Stephen, how would you describe tonight's action? Getting yourself in the top 5 of qualifying and staying there just about the whole night.
Yeah, hey guys. It was pace was just a little disappointing tonight. I think I've been kind of a couple tenths off here all week, so it's a little bit frustrating. And in the race, thought I was in pretty much in no man's land, just kind of lapping with no one around me. But all of a sudden, kind of at the end of when I came out of the pit, Takeshi was right behind me. So we did have a bit of a spirited chase to the finish there. So that was fun and kind of made up for the drudgery of the first half of the race. But happy to get on the podium.
How difficult was it to try and not just maintain the pace, but also try and set up the passes throughout the night in the midst of the aero push? It seemed difficult from our perspective.
Yeah. It's just you need a pretty big lap time delta to have a pass on here. So it's mostly just about kind of being consistent and just trying to stay with the pack ahead. But unfortunately that lead pack just kind of slowly slipped away from me over the course of the first stint. But yeah, it's hard to make things happen around here, which is, I guess, an advantage when you're like me and you're a couple tenths off the pace. It's easier to keep people behind.
So with this race tonight and how you ran here tonight, depending on how things shake out, likely a top 10 finish in the point standings as high as 8th. In turn, what is the approach or the plan for next season to try and top that?
I think I think I missed like 4 races, so I'm happy to finish in the top 10. I think the plan to finish higher would be to not miss a bunch of races next season. But unfortunately, I think given some of my life plans, I will miss a handful of races again. So it's mostly just about coming out and trying to put in good performances and have good races. And not too worried about the results. But hopefully maybe like 1 or 2 fewer crashes next season would be a good goal.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on the top 3 tonight to close out the season.
Thanks so much. Have a good one all.
That's Verde closing out the top 3 here tonight from Norway. I'd like to thank him as well as Michael Dowd and Julio Placio for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on RaceSpot. Derek, on that note, a season comes to the closing tonight as part of a very busy championship closing week for PRL action before the next season of races get underway.
That's right, JP. We're not that far away from the next season. I should mention as well that if you thought you had fun watching this night, go, I could do that. You know what? You can. As far as I know, registration is still open for season 3 of PRL. Head over to their website or their Discord for more information. But tonight, JP, consistency and dominance was on the menu.
Yes, indeed. And again, keep in mind, once again, PrecisionRacingLeague.com, as Derek just said, various different series on the docket for next season, include the Cup Series, the GR86 Series, as well as GT4 Action, and several more types of cars you can race here at this racetrack and in the sim. On that note, it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's coverage of the Precision Racing League and the Formula 3 Series here on RaceSpot. For Derek Watson, for our producer tonight, once more at Rafi Senk, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the PRL's closing race of 2023 Season 1.